The House will come to order. Members, our prayer today will be given by Emily Grace Resnick. She serves as the State Vice President of the FFA and is guest of Lee County delegation.
Would everyone please bow their heads? Dear Lord, thank you for this day and this time together. Thank you for allowing us to gather in your presence and for safe travels. Bless us all in that we do, and grant us with the wisdom and guidance to serve the citizens of our great state. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Members' Day Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Bradley Cannon. She is English. I've already got you being a teacher. That's not right. You're in 8th grade. I don't know how that happened. Congratulations. That's pretty quick. 8th grader at Demopolis Middle School, and she is the guest of Representative McCampbell.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Speaker, Almond, Baker, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracey, Brinyark, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Colvin, Crawford, Daniels, Drummond, Dubose, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harbison, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Hulk, Jones, Hollis, Hulsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shedd, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrells, Stahagen, Standridge, Starnes, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Treadaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Whitt, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood D, Wood R, Woods, Yarborough.
Fifty-seven members have answered roll. Quorum is present, and the House is ready to transact business. The chair recognizes Representative Stubbs for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that floor privileges be granted to Popcorn, the service dog at Wetumpka Elementary, Brandy Reisky, the paraprofessional at Wetumpka Elementary that works with Popcorn, my wife, Jenny Stubbs, and my son, Bennett Stubbs.
Are there any objections? Here no objections, floor privileges are granted. Representative Stubbs, you're further recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and fellow colleagues and those in the gallery, I'd like to take the opportunity today to recognize Popcorn, the service dog, which has served in Wetumpka Elementary for 9 years and recently retired. Brandy Reisky, who is here with us today, has been Popcorn's paraprofessional at the elementary school for the entire 9 years, and Popcorn now resides with her in her home. I think it's important as we discuss many matters here in the state legislature regarding mental health and other challenges in our school system to understand the value of service dogs. Popcorn is a facility dog at Wetumpka Elementary and was part of the Service Dogs of Alabama pilot program in 2015. Due to the success of Popcorn service at Wetumpka Elementary, there are now over 40 service dogs serving in public schools in the state of Alabama. We are grateful for Popcorn's service and Brandy's service. And as a personal note, I would like to mention Popcorn serves the students and teachers at the school by spending time with them when they're reading, when they're walking through the halls, helping anxiety and other issues. But for our family, as here today, my son Bennett was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in March of 2021. And 2 weeks following his diagnosis, after an extended stay in the ICU at Children's Hospital, Bennett returned to school. As parents, we were very concerned and did not know how things would go at school. He did not have any of the technology or devices that he now has to notify us of his blood sugar. But Bennett was at school, and Bennett was trying to understand and learn about his body, and he was sitting in the class, and his blood sugar dropped at a level that was very severe and would have put him in potential seizures and passing out. Popcorn, this is the one time I'm told by Brandy that Popcorn has ever reacted the way that she did to Bennett. She circled Bennett, she jumped up on Bennett by patting him and alerted the teachers of this concern. And I remind you, Popcorn has never been trained as a diabetic dog. So this was an instance that I believe God puts these dogs on earth for us to use and for them to serve us and for us to love and serve them. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask that there is a reading of the resolution.
Mr. Clerk, would you read the resolution, please?
Whereas commendations and congratulations are extended to Popcorn on the occasion of her retirement as the service dog at Wetumpka Elementary School on January 30th, 2024. And whereas Popcorn, the facility service dog, was first placed in the state of Alabama in 2015, where she paved the way for placement of other service dogs throughout the state. And whereas, an adored friend to many throughout the years, she has served as a listening ear, the best buddy, a pillow during library time, and even as a participant in costume parties. And whereas there are approximately 40 to 45 active facility service dogs throughout the state that work with counselors and administrators within the school system, and Popcorn was responsible for that. These dogs must pass the same training as other service dogs and go through an accredited program. But the big difference is they are not working with one person with a disability. They serve many. And whereas Service Dogs Alabama is backed by Assistance Dogs International, and because this is a state program, the Alabama Department of Education funds the program within Alabama schools. The dogs work with a professional handler and go home with the handler in the evening after the school day is over. And whereas Popcorn has brought countless smiles, laughs, and support throughout the years with her service within Elmore County, students from her past and her current students came to celebrate her well-deserved retirement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the Legislature of Alabama that we take great pride and appreciation for every adventure and opportunity that Popcorn has provided to Wetumpka Elementary students, staff, faculty, and parents. It is a privilege to wish a happy retirement to Popcorn and share our gratitude for her service by offering this resolution.
Representative Stubbs, you want to recognize some more members? I think we've got your superintendent.
Yes, absolutely. We have many people in the gallery in the center section there. We have Elmore County Board of Education Superintendent Richard Dennis, 2 board members, Michael Morgan and David Jones, Wetumpka Elementary Principal Gigi Hankins, and many family members and school teachers and administrators from Wetumpka Elementary, and a few students as well.
Let's give them a big hand. Thank y'all for being with us today. Thank you, Representative Stubbs.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Jennifer from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I request that leaves of absence be granted for absent members.
Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, the absent members are excused. The chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
Ms.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 15th legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 15th legislative day be dispensed with.
Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, read the journal dispensed with. Ms. Moore, you want a point of personal privilege? Okay. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore. Point of personal privilege.
Thank you. Okay. My concern, we have a bill on the calendar today that's dealing with municipal zoning boards. It's almost identical to a bill that I've been working on for the last couple of years, but this bill, right, the way it's written is directly the way that the court ordered it, that if there's an appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, that the community in 15 days can appeal in court. Now, the bill that I've been working on, because we found that it's too expensive for a community to pay the cost. I know in Birmingham it's $250 plus $100 for everyone in the community that might want to attach to that appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. What we have here is exactly what the court ordered, which we have been trying for a couple years now to change it so that the communities will, in that 15-day period, will make the appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment with additional information. Because as this is written, it's like the court order itself, and you find that most communities do not have the funds to be able to appeal. And what I'm asking is that if this sponsor and I can meet before this bill comes up so she can see the information that we have gathered.
Representative Almond, I think this is your bill she's speaking of. You care to meet with her before we bring this bill up? Y'all can meet in my conference room if you'd like to. Thank you. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is so wonderful to be recognized. Good to be here. I want to say before we need a few of them good little popcorns on this floor to calm some fears. Mr. Speaker, I came to the microphone to ask if we will just have a moment of silence for one of our colleagues who Representative McClammy, who's hospitalized even as I speak throughout last week. They are testing, and we don't know the results of it yet, but she needs our prayers.
Thank you, Representative. Let's have a moment of silence to pray for her and her quick recovery. And at the end, Representative, you can say a prayer for us. That'd be great.
Father God, we approach your throne this morning to say thank you for being sovereign, for being the creator of the universe, the giver of life, the maker of man. We thank you for healing. We are speaking in advance that you will just heal our colleague. Lord, we don't know, but you know, because you made her. It's in you that we live and move and have our beings, and without you, we can do nothing, but with you all things are possible if we just have faith and believe. And we're asking you, Lord, to touch her body, give her comfort, relieve the pain that she's suffering, heal, set free like no other God can do. And we're ever mindful of you to give you a name to praise and tell the world of your goodness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Speaker Pro Tem Pringle, for a purpose of making announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a bunch of announcements, so this is going to take a second. Today is Future Farmers of America Day and National Ag Day at the State House. The Alabama Pharmacy Association reception will be tonight at RSA Plaza from 5 to 7. The Alabama Sheriff's Association Appreciation Evening will be at the Union Train Station from 5 until 8. The Alabama Bureau of Pardons and Paroles Art Show will be held tonight at the Alabama Department of Archives and History from 5 to 7. The Education Policy Solution Reception will be held tonight at Central starting at 6. Tomorrow, the Sportsman's Caucus Legislative Breakfast will be at 7:30 at the RSA Plaza. The Alabama House of Representatives will win back the trophy in the battle for Goat Hill. Tomorrow from 5:30 to 7 at the Montgomery Riverwalk Stadium. The doors open at 7. Come support our team. Thursday, Delta Day at the Capitol will be Thursday, March 21st. I believe a request has gone out that we all wear some form of red on Thursday for Delta. The Alabama Association of the Board of Registrars breakfast will be held Thursday morning, March 21st from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 at the Farmers Market Cafe. ALCAP's weekly prayer breakfast will be Thursday morning from 7 to 8 at the RSA Plaza. Boys and Girls Club America Alliance breakfast will be held Thursday morning, March 21st from 7:30 to 9:30 at the RSA Activity Center.
Pro Tem's further recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today, we leave the journal open to the clerk, allow the clerk to complete his paperwork, and that we reconvene on Thursday, March 21st at 10 a.m. Thursday, 10 a.m.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion prevails. Clerk will receive the reports from standing committees. We'll receive those reports throughout the day. The House is now in position to introduce bills and resolutions.
House Joint Resolution number 107 by Representative Shaver, commending the winners of the Great Alabama 650 race.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Mr. Clerk, you got individual resolutions now? I'd like to recognize a former colleague, Gil Isbell, is with us today. It's good to see him. Gil, welcome back to the House of Representatives. I'd also like to recognize Falkville, Alabama, Ashland Holmes, Northern District FFA Specialist, guest of Representative Parker Moore and Leader Stathagen. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for being with us today. Walker Springs Church in Clark County. Guests are Representative Jackson and Representative Easterbrook. Let's give them a big hand. Also, we have Washington County FFA. Let's give them a big hand. And they're a guest of Representative Brent Easterbrook. Thank y'all for being with us today. Also, we have Pike County FFA, guest of Representative Marcus Perrymore. Thank y'all for being with us today. Let's have it. Let all the FFA members, if you would, stand up. If you're an FFA member, stand up. It's a great organization. Thank you for what you're doing. Certainly a great leadership organization. Thank you, guys. Congratulations on being one of the largest in the country as an organization. Let's hear recognize the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Levern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a resolution.
Clerk, see the resolution.
House Resolution number 112 by the House Rules Committee, the special order calendar.
Chairman Levern, you're recognized.
Move for adoption.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
What happened?
This session's been tough on everybody.
At least it's just one of them. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
That's right. I'm right-handed at least.
Good. Good deal. Well, I have some questions. I used to do this all the time with our friend Mike Jones, and apparently it's going to get to the point where you and I are going to start spending some time together as we kind of get into the session, and we start to kind of see how the calendar is formed and kind of what's happening. So I have some issues that I guess it's kind of like a foresight deal that I have some issues with, and I'm just trying to figure out how we get to the point of, having an opportunity to be on the special order calendar. When a bill is sponsored, how did that bill, what happens at that point? That bill gets sponsored and then it gets assigned to a committee?
Sure, certainly. If a member files a bill, then that bill will be assigned to a committee, and then that committee chairman will set an agenda for that committee, and if it appears on there may be a public hearing, there may be a vote. At same day, could be some extra work that could be done, could be assigned to subcommittee or whatever needs to happen for the bill to get to the best working form. And then once it's presented to the committee for a vote, it's either voted with a favorable report or voted down with an unfavorable report out of that committee. And that's how it gets out of the committee format.
Okay. How do a bill get sent to a committee?
How would a bill get sent to a committee? That's at the designation of the speaker.
Sir?
That's through the designation of the speaker.
So each bill that's appointed in the House, the speaker would decide which committee the bill would go to?
Right.
Okay. And so how do you feel about if a bill, let's say if a bill is sponsored and the bill should be a local bill, but the bill does not come out as a local bill, it comes out as a statewide bill with local application. How do you feel about those?
Well, do you have any examples of that happening?
Yes, sir. Let's say if you represent Auburn, Lee County, right? Is university in your district?
It is.
Okay. Let's say if someone from another district sponsor legislation to remove Auburn from Auburn's city limit and put Auburn into another city limit, let's say Opelika. And where would you think that bill should go? Would you think it should go to the Lee County local delegation?
Well, it'd be, if it has a statewide application, then it would not necessarily go to a local process. It would be a.
But do you agree that making it have statewide application would be to go around the local process?
No, I see what you're saying is if someone took interest into something that was maybe in my district,
Right.
Well, for instance, I represent a fantastic educational institution, and for me to think that other people wouldn't have an interest in the well-being of that institution would be wrong. So if somebody had an interest that they're looking for to try to help do something in my district, then I could certainly see where some people would have just as much interest there as me.
Okay. Do you think that they would sit down and have a conversation with you about it, with you being the home?
I don't know. I can't speak for other people.
Would you?
I would. I have my process, and some people have others. And
Okay. So you would see no issue with that type of legislation?
well, if it had a statewide application, it could affect, more than just that district.
But, sometimes you can have bills with statewide applications that are specific to certain things. So even though a bill may have statewide application, this bill that I'm referring to will be specifically to Auburn and Auburn's corporate city limits, and removing the university from those corporate city limits. Where do you think that bill should go? Should that be a local bill, or should that be a bill that goes to a committee? Because we talk about home rule a lot.
Sure.
And we talk about people being able to represent their communities, their districts. You've been elected by about 50,000 people, just like me, to represent your district. And I'm just wondering, do you think though that's a home rule deal, that there should be something that, it should be some consideration to you about, or it should go to the Lee County delegation?
Well, I serve with 7 members in the Lee County delegation, and usually anything affecting Lee County affects us all. So if anything's working that's going through and becoming an issue in Lee County, I would not be surprised if any of us would address it, because what's important to Lee County is important to all 7 of us.
Yeah, and I guess I could agree with that, but at the same time, even though you represent, because we all represent the whole state. We all represent areas that I guess you can consider that, but I guess I would think that we will have some level of local consideration. Like I've seen a lot of times people vote on bills and they'll say, well, let me see what the member thinks from that community, or let me go and talk to the mayor or the city council from that community to get an idea of what the city's position is, what the position is of the representative that's elected for that area. What do you think about that? What if those things have not happened? What if somebody from outside sponsored legislation affecting Auburn, and the mayor and the city council of Auburn, and you are not even a part of the discussion, and you just happen to find out about it? Would you be okay with that?
Well, if it's that big an issue, then I probably would have been in the discussion at some point, even if not at the final point. So, for instance, Lake Martin is not in my district, but it's near my district, and it's a vacation property for a lot of people in my district. And people have passed legislation in the Senate and offered legislation out here that affects a lake in another part of the state that includes the lake near me. So I take interest in it because it affects that lake there, but they didn't have a meeting with me beforehand. But once the issue was brought to light, then I engaged in conversation and see how we could work towards a solution for that issue that came about. But back to the calendar, is there a bill on this calendar that is a concern that you feel like there wasn't communication with? Or?
Well, yes, sir. So it's what I was getting at is how you get to this point. So just to make sure we kind of loop it all back together is how does a bill get to committee to get to the point where it can be on the pick list to be on the calendar? Because we know we have so many bills. We have processes here. And we have so many bills that are local bills. And we have so many bills that I'm just trying to get a better understanding of how a bill that should be a local bill instead of being a local bill, get selected to get put into a standing committee that's only dealing with a local issue, especially something like a constitutional amendment. And the reason why I say that is because by doing that, you create a local constitutional amendment to become a statewide constitutional amendment, as opposed to being a local countywide constitutional amendment where, like I know, it's hard for people to vote on local constitutional amendments in other parts of the state. A lot of times they just go in and check something. They don't even really understand what's going on, what the issues are, like people locally. And that's one of the concerns. Like, I'm just wondering, how do we get to that point, especially with something that would be considered a constitutional amendment that would be on a statewide ballot, when a constitutional amendment that affects locally, especially cities, parcels of land, should be a countywide. This Auburn deal should be a Lee County constitutional amendment. People in Mobile shouldn't be voting on whether or not Auburn should be de-annexed and put into Opelika or not.
Well, let's look at it from a different plan. So say if they were doing something in my district that affected the overall education budget for the state.
The gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes the lady from Montgomery, Representative Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would a gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
I see you walking around, and I was trying to see if I had needed to help you with something, but let's just talk about some rules from the bills that's taking place that I, wanted to ask. This is my first time coming down, being able to have this conversation with you, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions.
Well, I'll add your name down. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. So can you just give me or tell the people what is local application?
Well, local application pertains, is spelled out where if it only applies to a local area. And where that could amplify out is if there's a statewide application, for instance, like a budget matter, or affects the overall constitution that could have effect in other counties in the state. And so that's where you could have a change in that. The speaker before you was very concerned about that, and I turned back to the calendar. I don't know which bill specifically on today's calendar we're talking about, but if there is one, I'm happy to talk about it with you.
No, I just want to know about the local application. Just asking you some general questions about rules, right? Because one day I might just decide that, I was trying to get in rules. I know it's pretty difficult to get in the rules committee, but I wanted to, so I'm just gonna keep asking some of them questions. How long does it take for a bill to move through rules? Like, once you get the bill, how long does it take for it to move through rules?
Once a bill is selected by the Rules Committee?
Yes.
We do specific actions in there. So when we met the day before we left for last week's break, when we adjourned, the committee met and we established the special order calendar, which was presented, and we went around the rotation of the committee, and each person had a chance. We went through the entire committee, and everyone had a chance to select a bill. And from that selection, then we adopt that special order calendar, and we have the general calendar, but where you may think is where you can pick up a copy, and that's every bill that's come out of committee. But the special order, the reason it's called special, is it's selected out of that order in a specific order that is made into the calendar that's adopted for any specific day.
Okay, so if I had a bill and it came in, I would have to actually get a member from rules to actually pick it, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so every bill is being picked by a member of the Rules Committee.
Certainly, and one other step in there is once it comes out of committee, then the bill sponsor has to fill out a form in our office that would be considered for rules, meaning for it to be put on the pick list. The reason for that is you may have passed a bill out of committee and you may have some more things you're working on with some people that have interest in that certain legislation. I may not know that. So we have that process in there that lets us know that this bill is out of committee. This bill has been reviewed and we're working through the process. I'm ready for it to be considered by the entire body.
Okay, awesome. And I heard you mention a little bit about statewide application. Can you just give me like a little bit about statewide application?
Certainly. If you're affecting, let's use any budget item for instance. If you take money away from over here, it may affect something over here. So when you have statewide, either could be any law that we have on the books, or it could be a budgetary item that's being financed. It affects the state as a whole, so it could be a statewide application.
Okay. So if I have a local bill, can I take a local bill and make it a statewide bill?
You can.
What's the process of me doing that?
You can file the bill, and some of the language you can put in there, you can make it for it's a whole consideration for the state.
So if I had a bill and I wanted to bring it for Montgomery, and it's a local bill, but I don't want to take it through my delegation. I want to go around that process. Is that what I'll be doing when I take it through statewide? If it's because it's still based on local, but I don't want to go through my delegation. I want to just skip past that.
I say go around is not necessarily the right term, but if you draft the bill in accordance with the law where it applies on a statewide component, then that would move it to a statewide application. So it's all in how the bill is drafted.
So I could turn a local bill into a statewide bill, but it's still gonna affect locally.
You could.
So shouldn't it just be a local bill? Or why would someone want to do that? If it's a way of dealing with local application, local bills versus statewide, but it's gonna only affect locally and not state, why would I want to do that?
Well, anybody that sponsors a bill may have many different reasons. I'm not sure, or maybe they think it may have an application to some other part of the state. I'm not sure, so that would be up to the individual bill sponsors of why they directed the legislation in that manner.
So as rules chair, do you even ask, do you ask those type of questions? Like if it looks like it's a bill for local and they write it up for state, as rules chaired, when you read it, do you look at it and say, hey, why this isn't
Certainly,
local?
I pick up that and can have some questions sometimes why something would be a local application or not.
Okay, so and if someone did that on your end with that, I'm gonna strike that because we already know you're not gonna let that up. But let's go to the what is a contest? So I can contest through. What does that entail?
You mean contesting a local bill?
Yes.
What is that process?
Yes.
And the clerk can correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 2 members or 20%, whichever is the lesser of those. So it could contest a bill based on your delegation size.
Okay, so if it's based on the delegation size, and if the delegation contest, like for me, for Montgomery, right? So if I have a bill for Montgomery and some members decide that they don't want it and they contest it, right? So what would be the process? What would happen after they contest that bill?
Well, you have a specific form, don't you, for the contest bill? You have a copy of one of those forms. We'll show you what that form looks like. Mm-hmm. You fill that form out, present it to the clerk.
Okay, so then if I contest, I fill out the application, I contest it, and then after I receive after my delegation members contest my bill, then if I wanted to, I could take that same bill, just rewrite it some type of way and take it statewide?
Well, you could, but it may, it's according to what the end goal is of that legislation. And I think that would put the bill under more scrutiny if you tried to do that. It would put it in a process of more evaluation, and I don't understand if it was just a local matter necessarily. Sometimes it's not worth that trouble, but sometimes it may be. It may be where if you're trying to fix a local issue and you can't get it addressed, I've seen people file a statewide bill that addresses a similar issue that gets to the end goal that the sponsor is trying to attain.
I think that we should, because when I first came in, I don't know if that was actually something, I just don't know if that was actually something that we can do, like going, I just think that we should, if it's a local matter, then local people should be able to get involved in it. But what is home rule?
What is
Home rule.
That's where it applies to where us and local governments, where there may be dictations of where applications are on the authority for any type of issue. And that's a much debated issue of where we stretch the arm of the legislative process, where it affects and overreach into local home rule.
Okay, so if it's going,
Ladies' time has expired.
thank you.
Question for the body is adoption of the special order calendar. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Clerk, call first bill on special order calendar.
On page 24 of the calendar, House Bill number 230 with substitute by Representative Wilcox relating to corporations.
Chairwoman Wilcox.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, I'm proud to be presenting House Bill 230. I'm doing this in conjunction with the Alabama Secretary of State's Business Services Division. I sent you an email earlier today, and you have a handout on your desk. This was a result of a change of Passage Act 2022-252 when we reduced the statutory threshold for business privilege tax. So we unintentionally created more of a headache by sending them to do a report at the Secretary of State's office. Mr. Speaker, may I move for the passage of the BIR?
That's questions passed to the BIR. Chair recognizes Jennifer Clark. Representative Jackson. While he's making his way down here, I'd like to recognize the Alabama Public Safety Leadership Academy, joined by the Fire Council and members of the Fire College, guests of Representative Curtis Travis. Let's give them a big hand. Thank y'all for your service and for being with us today. Also, we got Fayette County Leadership Group from Fayette County, guest of Representative Brinyard. Let's give them a big hand. Thank y'all for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for not recognizing me earlier. Ms. Wilcox,
Yes, sir. How can I help you?
could you explain a little bit about what your bill does, House Bill 230?
Well, yes, sir. Back in 2022, when we passed the bill lowering the threshold for businesses that had to file the business privilege tax, we unintentionally created a report that they had to go over to the Secretary of State's office and file. And one of my constituents called me a couple of weeks ago, just very upset that as a small business person, he was having to go over, establish some more paperwork and do that report, and felt like it was an extra step that businesses should not have to go through.
So, in other words, you're removing regulations, right?
Yes, sir. We're trying to streamline.
Why are you also against regulations?
Well,
you're a party of rules and order, but you don't like regulations. How can you have it both ways?
Well, we're actually trying to make it easier Alabama is a business-friendly state, and we're trying to make sure that our businesses don't spend as much time on paperwork and more time generating revenue for.
Oh, it's all about money now. That's the bottom line, right?
Yes, sir. Time is money when you're in small business. I can attest to that. I was a small business person.
And you have a pretty profitable business. But you didn't have no problem regulating going to the Secretary of State's office, getting out your little information, did you?
Well, that's an extra step that I don't think that is necessary. And that's the reason why I brought this. This is supported by the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the Alabama Retailers Association, many other organizations, also the Alabama Society of CPAs. So our small businesses right now are having to pay their CPA to fill out a report, and sometimes to pay $10.
You mean the CPA complaining?
No, the CPAs are not complaining, but they do feel like that they really do hate having to charge their clients for filling out this report.
Well,
for
that's
$10.
the first I ever heard of a CPA don't want to charge their client.
There's a shortage of CPAs in the state of Alabama. There's not a lot of young people.
You should have a bill to make sure that there's enough. Keep the funding going.
I'm very proud of the Certified Public Accountants Association.
They do a great work.
They are, and they're doing outreach in other colleges and trying to do everything they can to recruit.
So when I saw the Secretary of State, I was thinking about a little group of people getting together when it comes to election time to do something kind of strange, certifying elections and all that. But this is a whole different. And I'm
no,
with
sir,
you.
this is a pro-business.
I am pro-business.
Pro-small business in particular.
Even though small business is the backbone of this state and nation.
Yes, sir.
It's not the big corporation that we look at all the time.
No, sir.
It's the mom and pop stores that we've been beating up on.
National Federation of Independent Businesses is very much behind this bill. And that's an organization of very small businesses.
And we got to remember that before we became legislators, there was little mom and pop stores, and now we got up here and we want to just run over them.
That's correct.
Saying that they don't matter, but they matter. And I want to thank you for bringing this and helping our businesses go through all the situation of going to keep their books up to par. So this will be a step that they don't have to write down. But there's a lot of things that's happening under the circumstances of what we are going through in our nation and state. And you're not part of that, but you're trying to uphold what is good.
Well, like I said, a constituent called me on a Saturday, or he actually sent an email and was shocked that I called him back right away. So that was when I first heard about it. So I spoke to him on a Saturday. He was very upset about what he was having, the hoops he was having to go through. And then fortuitously, I happened to run into our Secretary of State at an event in Mobile and relayed to him the problem that my constituent was having. And my constituent was former City Councilman John Williams. He was my representative, had a good relationship with him. And Secretary of State Allen told me that his office was already getting numerous calls and complaints. There was confusion on behalf of businesses, and that his office was working on it, but he was reluctant to bring a bunch of bills to the House because he wanted to only bring me in. So anyway, I volunteered to carry this bill.
Thank you for carrying this bill. But I'm so proud to hear you say that. See, when people complain, people listen.
Yes, sir.
To some things. They've been getting a lot of calls about other issues they don't even pay no attention to. And so
I try to be responsive to all my constituents.
So we just can't be on this end up, and on the other end we're ignoring folks, because there's been a lot of calls on the other issues that has set people back in this state that they're complaining about, but nobody's listening to them.
I'm sure that you listen to your constituents. I try to listen to mine.
I'm always listening. I'm here speaking for them, but nobody listens to me. They don't even get me. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
We complain, but nobody listens. And so being on the super minority side of this issue, nobody hears us. And so I'm going to be like John the Baptist. I'm going to be crying in the wilderness. Thank you for bringing this bill.
Thank you, sir. I hope you vote yes.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Winston, Representative Wadsworth.
Yeah, I do. And Mr. Speaker, I know you're going to hate to hear this, but there is a substitute that an amendment, so sorry.
Lady Yield.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is an excellent bill. One of the things that's interesting is an LLC doesn't have to file this while a domestic and foreign corporation does. And when an LLC or a corporation is initially prepared, it has the registered agent. All this is if nothing changes on an LLC, as far as on the registered agent, it's just a complete waste of time to file that. And we've already got it where nothing is filed except for corporations. It takes just a short period of time to do it. However, you still got to turn around and pay the money, bill it, and it provides no additional information. And so this is an excellent bill, and I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate your comments.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record votes. 97 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Wilcox.
Yes, sir. We have an amendment. Representative Underwood was going to bring that, but should I go ahead and? I'm sorry.
Is it a floor amendment?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have to adopt the committee sub first.
Okay. You care to explain what the committee sub does?
It was a purely technical amendment by the sub does exactly what the original bill does. It just clarified where the principal office, what that meant, in or out of the state. So it designated the annual report where the principal executive office of the corporation or foreign corporation was located.
Okay. Did you talk to Ms. Hall about your sub?
No, sir, I did not.
She wants to talk to you.
Ms. Hall,
Chair
please,
recognizes the
come
lady
on
from
down.
Madison, Representative Hall.
I have you a copy. I just forgot to put it on your desk. And
Copy or coffee?
I got that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Sometimes we get these subs and they have it outlined, by the color and everything. And then other times we get them, they don't. So your sub does not. Look at, you're right. Thank you. So
right, that's the committee sub.
All right.
Now, I also have
let me hold on.
by a floor amendment.
So when I went to, but your what you talked about did not mention, it just struck through the foreign entity. And so when I went to 219, it said replace lines 219 through 225. And this says it's a sub.
That's the sub. Here's the introduced version. I'm just showing you.
Okay, right. So, but when you look, see, 219 through 225. Okay. I got you. Okay. That makes sense. All right, so let me go to line 28. Thank you.
I was ready
that
for you.
makes
I made
sense.
sure to
Get that
have the
right.
original here and the
that,
copy.
now, that was good. Yes. And so tell me, so when it said principal office, that means when you look into corporations, the principal office is.
Well, some of them have multiple offices,
Right.
so it was very confusing.
Right.
So this is an LSA. Each of these are amendments by LSA. I want to make that very clear that
Right.
they were further codifying everything.
Okay.
And so they felt like that needed to be clarified. So that's when we did that committee substitute.
So you could have several principal offices. You would have one in the state of Alabama, one in South Carolina, one in North Carolina, et cetera.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, okay. So when they do the annual report, Does it come from all of them? You know, if the annual
It's one
for the
report. That's
corporate,
what
and where does that come from? Does it come from which one is designated as the main?
As the principal office. I assume they combine all of the information into one report from the company.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just trying to determine which office would that come from in which state. Would it be the original office or would it be one that's been designated that the reports come from?
I might have given you, look and see if I've got an extra copy.
I didn't see, and I'm sure it's in here. I just haven't. I didn't understand it. But
It's the
anyway.
principal office in or out of state.
Right,
Where
but I'm
the
saying it
principal
says so designated in the annual report where the principal executive office of a corp are located. My question was, when they do that, how do you determine where the principal office is? If I read this the way I read this, it's that when they do the report, that designates where the main office is. Is that did I misread that?
Where the principal executive offices are is how they've have pulled it out. And I have a copy of the form here on my phone. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Question for the body now is the adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will lock the machine and members will vote.
Jamie, will you get me, please?
Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Chairwoman Wilcox.
Yes, sir. I believe that Representative Underwood was going to bring a floor amendment.
You don't have his light on.
My bad. I'm sorry.
I had him standing by on ready. I didn't want to wait for him to walk down here.
Hey, I'm going to get that light on.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Colbert, Representative Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognition. We have a very simple technical bill that inserts the letter A basically on line 526. Instead of section 10-2A-16, it's 10A-2A-16.
Clerk sees the amendment.
That's it.
Amendment to House Bill number 230 by Representative Underwood.
Okay, Representative Underwood has explained the amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
And I'm proud to have Representative Underwood as a co-sponsor on this bill. He's a certified public accountant, so he's very well aware of this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Margie.
Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. The amendment has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 230. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Horse security. Security.
Mr. Speaker, I move to ask them how much they're donating to the charity instead of what the score is.
I can't believe security let them through the door. What happened? Clerk, call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 25 of the calendar, House Bill number 226 by Representative Allman with substitute relating to municipalities.
Representative Allman, you're recognized.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, this is HB 226, and it is a pretty simple little bill. Currently in our process for appealing decisions from the Board of Adjustment, a person who's appealing the decision has 15 days to file their notice of appeal. Unfortunately, there is no time frame prescribed by which they have to actually file their appeal. So what happens is that cities are getting notice of their intention to file an appeal, but the appeal is never filed, and therefore the city cannot make progress or take any action on the underlying decision of the Board of Adjustment. So what this bill does is allow them 30 days to actually file their appeal. Everything else remains the same in the current law. And if there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I move for the BIR.
That is the question. Is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machine and the members will vote.
Good, how are you?
Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted.
Thank you. There was an amendment in committee, so this the amendment replaced lines 63 through 64 on page 3 with the following: action in the circuit court shall be tried de novo. If there are no
You've heard the explanation of the committee amendment. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marengo, Representative McCampbell. While he's making his way down here, we'd like to recognize the UAB students of optometry, Representative Mark Sherry's guests. Let's give them a big hand. Thank y'all for being with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir.
And I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding this. You are now changing that 15 days to a 30-day time frame?
No, sir. The 15 days to file your notice of appeal remains the same. There's a second step, and that is you actually file your appeal. And currently, there is no time frame to do that. So I'm adding a time frame of 30 days.
So in the zoning board adjustments, now are the affected parties, are they going to make sure that the people understand, their appeal process? Do they make sure of that, or
are you talking about
is there proper notice and things of that nature?
I do not know what each community's procedure is. I presume that they probably do hand them something that says that they have a right to appeal, but I honestly could not speak for every community how they do that.
Okay, and what about when we may have absent landowners that are affected by this? How will that be handled, or do you have any idea?
Well, they would have received notice if they were impacted by the hearing. They would have received notice of that hearing because they're entitled to that. Their choice to participate or not, of course, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is the adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes, 98 ayes, 0 nays. Sub has been adopted.
Thank you,
Representative Almond.
Speaker. Thank you, body.
How about final passage? Would you like to do
And
that?
I move for final passage.
Okay, that's a question for the body. It's final passage of HB 226. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 226 has passed.
Thank you now, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
And body.
Clerk, call next bill.
On page 30 of the calendar, House Bill number 187 by Representative Faulkner relating to the income tax.
Before Representative Faulkner gets started, I'd like to recognize Lee and Tiffany Knowles, a family in Bruton and Escambia County. The three children of those with Bruton hometown friends, Representative Alan Baker, who are in Montgomery today. Ellen, Maddie, and Carter is also with the family, and they've been visiting all the Capitol and archives. Y'all stand up and let's give them a big hand. Thank y'all for being with us today. Representative Faulkner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is an Alabama Department of Revenue bill that seeks to simplify the pass-through entity due date extension. It updates the election due date to coincide with the due date of the return, plus any extensions. Allows the election to be made on the return itself, and the election on the return would begin with the January 1st, 2025 tax year. So the new extended due date would be September 15th for calendar year taxpayers instead of March 15th is all this is doing. And if there's not any further questions, I'd move for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marengo, Representative McCampbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Now, when we're talking about pass-through, we're talking about sub-S corporations. So
Yes.
instead of the 15th of
And subchapter K entities.
Okay.
That's what I'm reading.
all right. So what we're looking at then is instead of you having to actually do your filing if you're a pass-through on the 15th, then we are now extending that to September the 15th.
Which is when when the return is due.
Okay, Okay, I'm not sure I follow that, but. Because if I recall, and it's been a while, but your return is normally due on the 15th of March.
And you're right. Currently it says the election must be done by the 15th day of the third month following the close of the tax year for calendar year 5.
You have to make the election to do a pass through by the 15th. It's not March. It's not that you're going to.
When the return is due, now that's when you can make your election, is the way I read it.
Okay.
And I do have some good Department of Revenue tax folks in the gallery if we need further clarification for either one
I
of them.
think I'm going to go find the Revenue Department folks and get a little clarification on it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Campbell.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tell me, what is a pass-through entity?
Well,
What is that?
it's, as I understand it, Representative Hall, it is Alabama S corporations and subchapter K entities. So these are businesses that that are more at what they call the entity level, as I understand it.
And an entity level is?
Well, other than
Well, does the gentleman need to, Mr. Speaker?
Thank you for that. Yeah, so
I was about to say, if the gentleman is able to take your bill and explain it, maybe you should let him carry the bill. Go ahead, tell me what you're going to say.
well, he definitely has more knowledge about these entities than I do.
My question still is, so what did he tell you?
Like an LLC,
Right?
you know, LLCs
an LLC,
and what,
now, hold up just a minute. We're not going out like that. So sure, I know what an LLC is. I mean, you know, I do know what that is. So when you say pass-through, you're passing the funding or whatever. That when I read that, I said, so what is a pass-through entity? And so
the profits go through the LLC directly to the individual.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so then when you say the profit that goes through that, then you tax that amount that went through to that individual. Is that the way I read it? The entity may elect to be taxed.
The way I understand that part, I mean, I understand what the bill's doing, but the way I understand that is it helps them at the federal, with the federal level in their taxes.
Not on the state.
So that if you can pass through the taxes from that LLC down to the individual,
right,
it helps them on their taxes with the IRS.
You're saying it helps the individual or it helps the entity?
Well, it both, because the entity is a pass-through to that individual. Okay. So it's helping that, the way I understand it is, it's helping that individual with their taxes at the federal level.
In terms of the amount they pay or do not pay.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the way I understand that. Okay. But now
but the other part of the bill is the due date. Listen, tell whoever is giving you the information, the brother over here has helped you to give me what I thought, and if they think I need to know some more, they feel free to stop me and let me know. The due date, I think that, Representative McCampbell was talking about the due date and wanted some additional information. So the due date, the election begin in January of 26. So this is in effect until the present bill.
The bill would change.
Go ahead.
So the bill would change the date the election can be made on the return itself. So the election on the return would begin January 1st, 2025 is when this would go in place. But the election is made electronically through My Alabama Taxes, online.
Right there. So what I read here, the bill would extend the due date for an Alabama election pass-through and to make the election for tax year beginning January 1, 2024. So the process by which this bill is addressing at the end of that year, January 1 of 2025?
So it allows the election to be made on the return itself starting January 1st, 2025. But the current bill for extension would begin with this current tax year. But if you were making an election on the return itself, it would be January 1st, 2025.
Okay.
But as Representative McCampbell was talking about, it takes the new extended due date would be September 15th, 2024. And instead of where it currently is for calendar year filers, which is March 15th. And that's what I understand the bill is doing. It's just changing that date.
It does a little more than change the date. I mean, but
okay.
I think the next time you need to carry the bill. All right, go ahead. What did he tell you? What did he tell you?
So that March 15th date, right now, you could get an extension to June 15th, but this will allow you to get the extension to the due date of the return which is September 15th.
All right, so for the tax years, we get it on 24, the election passed through before the due date. It just seemed, all right.
Currently, in our law, the election must be done by the 15th day of the third month,
Which is March,
March 15th.
right?
And so for calendar year filers, that's March 15th. Fiscal year filers, the due date varies depending on the close of their fiscal year. So the Department of Revenue was seeking to simplify the process for the pass-through entities to elect to be taxed at the entity level. And so it updates that election due date to coincide with the due date of the return plus any extensions, which would be September 15th.
But when you also mentioned that it had something to do with the federal requirements.
Well, my understanding of why these entities exist is it helps individuals with at the federal tax level.
So bringing it in line so that they can benefit from their filing process or meet the federal guidelines.
I think it's to streamline it and help it, yes ma'am, with the federal taxes.
Ready for the BR?
Yeah, please. Yes, sir. Move for the BR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Faulkner.
Move for final passage.
That's questions. Final passage of HB 187. Clerk will unlock the machine. And the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 187 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
On page 16 of the calendar, House Bill number 221 by Representative Ellis relating to insurance.
Representative Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Members, the Alabama Pre-Need Funeral and Cemetery Act that we passed last year moved regulations of the pre-need funeral and cemetery agreements from the Department of Insurance to the Board of Funeral Services. In that new law, there's a cross-reference that referenced the old law where it was under the Department of Insurance. This bill simply corrects that cross-reference to the new law. It also, there's a law regarding the life insurance policy loans, includes a reference, which was a typo, to the standard non-forfeiture law for life insurance, and that corrects that typo. That was years ago. I actually think from 1975 is when that was codified, but there's a simple typo and it corrects that. With that, Mr. Speaker, if there's no question, I call for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just need clarity. Go over what your bill does
Okay.
again.
Okay, if you remember last year, we passed it was called the Alabama Pre-Need Funeral and Cemetery Act, which moved agreements for prepaid cemetery and funeral stuff from the Department of Insurance to the Board of Funeral Services. In that bill, there's a cross-reference a code section that no longer exists because it's no longer under the Department of Insurance. And so
Okay.
it just corrects that cross-reference.
Let me ask you something. Under that same bill, with the creation of the department or the committee for funerals or insurance, does that committee also work with cemeteries? Like, the Department of Insurance also took all the complaints dealing with cemeteries also?
And
Or
you're
does
meaning the
this
Board
just
of
do with pre-needs only?
the Board of Funeral Services?
Uh-huh.
I'm not 100% sure of the scope of their of what they do. Just to be honest, I'm not
Okay,
sure.
because I know they had moved at one point, you know, it started out in the Attorney General's office, then they, all things dealing with funeral services and cemeteries, then they moved it over to the Department of Insurance, and they took care of everything, all complaints, pre-needs, everything. So I was just wondering with this, will they also deal with cemeteries, or do you still have to go to the Department of Insurance for that?
Yeah, I'm not 100%
No.
sure, to be honest
Okay,
with you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body now is the adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Chairman Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further questions, I call for final passage.
That is the question. It's final passage of HB 221. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 221 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill on special order calendar.
On page 21 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 15 by Senator Beasley relating to the Board of Pharmacy.
Representative Rigsby, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. This is a companion bill to a bill that we passed a couple weeks ago, which is House Bill 52. Senate Bill 15 is a Board of Pharmacy rule change that allows the ratio of technicians to pharmacists in a compounding pharmacy to meet the current guidelines, which is 4-to-1. Currently in statute, it says 3-to-1, 3 technicians to 1 pharmacist. But this will just make it more in line with the rules that they've passed for all pharmacies and not carve out compounding pharmacies. If there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, could you clarify how this legislation is going to help our small town pharmacists?
So this bill only applies to the ratio of technicians to pharmacists in a compounding pharmacy. Currently, the state board passed a rule that a regular community pharmacy or hospital pharmacy could have 4 technicians if 2 of those were certified to 1 pharmacist. So if that pharmacy compounds in your rural area or your small town pharmacy, this will bring them in line so they can also have 4 technicians to 1 pharmacist if 2 of those are nationally certified.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Representative Rigsby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further questions, I ask for final passage of SB 15.
That is the question's final passage of SB 15. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. SB 15 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 22 of the calendar, House Bill number 241 by Representative Lovern relating to motor vehicles.
Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill will clarify that first responders are not pedestrians when stopping or diverting traffic on roadways. Under current law, an individual afoot is considered a pedestrian, and that just clarifies that when someone's operating in that first responder capacity, that they have the authority to direct and divert traffic if needed for the safety of the scene. And with that, I'd ask for BIR.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A little information here. Was that what happened to you? One of them road vehicles, first responders?
I wish the story was that good.
It wasn't that good.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I had to mess with him because he does me so bad. He got some legislation there in his rule committee, and you talking about first responders. What happens when an individual, a pedestrian, see an accident and try to do something to help in that situation?
Well, we have Good Samaritan laws that protect an individual. What this clarifies is in the code, if someone's working in that specific capacity as a first responder, it clarifies that if they step out of that vehicle, they're still working in that capacity. Under current law, that once they step out of that vehicle, they're classified as a pedestrian.
All right. And if something happens in that process, they're liable.
It could be, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I hope that there's nothing real serious with that arm of yours, but they're gonna miss that bat swing in the ball game tomorrow night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Lovern.
Thank you. Move for final passage.
That is the question, is final passage of HB 241. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. HB 241 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, House Bill number 65 with substitute by Representative Drummond relating to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board.
Representative Drummond, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Batty. This is a bill that was passed out of the House in last session, but it stalled in the Senate and it did not pass. It is a bill, and we have a substitute, but I'm going to tell you all the new things that this bill does, because what is happening in Alabama, from the Gulf Coast to the Wiregrass to North Alabama, if you live in Alabama, this is happening. You've experienced it. This bill revises the definition of nicotine delivery system to come in line with federal regulation. It prohibits sales through vending machines. It requires one-time application, and it gives ABC and Aaliyah the boots on the ground to be able to go into C-stores or where all of these illegal products are being sold out of China and Mexico. If you read an article recently that was in Yellowhammer, we know that communist China has already started propaganda because they're trying to take over the market in the United States. This bill only pertains to young people, to our young people in our state. It is going to make them healthy and hopefully keep them from vaping in the state of Alabama. One other component of this bill, it will adopt, the State Board of Education will adopt a policy for those who violate this law, so that we will have vaping education with parents as well as with students. It will also create 2 pots to put boots on the ground so that they can get these illegal products that are coming out of China and Mexico into our C-stores and accessible to our young people. It will create about $2.5 million, which will be used by Aaliyah and ABC to put boots on the ground to go into those establishments. Mr. Speaker, that's pretty much the bill. You want me to tell them what's in the substitute?
No, let's get the BIR first, then we'll talk about the sub, okay?
I call for the BIR, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, that's the question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Representative Drummond.
In the substitute, Mr. Speaker, that was subbed in committee, and I have a floor sub as well, but subbed in the committee, you will find that ABC, after looking at the bill, there were a number of things in the bill. They had a 6-page amendment that really was just doing housekeeping, cleaning things up so that they will be able, when they put boots on the ground, to be able to go in and enforce this new law. It also includes language that we are requiring that no educator or support staff, while we're requiring kids not to do it on campus, we don't want educators or support staff to be able to do it as well. Those are the changes that are in the substitute, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of this committee sub. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall, speaking on the committee sub. Okay, she wants to wait for the bill. So let's go ahead and vote on the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes, 101 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Representative Drummond.
I call for the passage of the sub. Final passage of the sub? No, I got to get the, okay, the amendment? Okay. Yes.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Faulkner.
Do you have a copy of that? Okay. You got a copy?
Representative Drummond, it goes without saying how much I respect and appreciation I have for you on this issue of vaping. Years ago, I know with Shane Stringer, Representative Stringer, and myself and others, really passionate about doing something on the vape issue. And I know it's hard to get everybody to agree on everything in it, but really appreciate the work and the persistence you've done on this. And it's been an honor to be able to work with you and help you on this bill. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I do have the amendment that you have wanted brought to this bill. And I'll just read the amendment or explain the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 65 by Representative Faulkner.
Representative Faulkner, explain the amendment, please.
So, members, the floor amendment is going to replace lines 173.3 through 178 on page 7 with the following: may be used in conjunction with an electronic nicotine delivery system, comma, or other substances, comma, including, comma, but not limited to CBD oil. And the reason I understand this definition is to match the federal definition. And so that is the reason for that one. The second part of this, replacing lines 590 on page 22 with the following: substitute, comma, tobacco, CBD oil, herbal extract, or. That is allowing, as I understand it, Representative Drummond, allowing therapeutic use of those substances.
That's right.
Which people do use. And then we have a little cleanup there where we change instead of either, any of the following apply. We then, on replace line 852 on page 31 with the following applicable from the FDA. And this is referencing the FDA date.
They extended that deadline.
Extended that deadline, all right. And so it has that language in there that matches the federal. And then lastly, we have replaced lines 862 through 863 on page 31 with the following: subcategory characterizing flavor and product SKU number, which was creating SKU numbers for Aaliyah and the ABC, as I understand it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is a friendly amendment, Mr. Speaker. This is a friendly amendment.
Okay, this is a friendly amendment. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman yield.
Yes, ma'am.
When I go to your second session there on the amendment to the substitute page, you indicated you're substituting tobacco, CBD oil, herbal extract, or, and you say that's for therapeutic use?
Yes.
And why is tobacco a part of that? Tobacco is therapeutic as well?
It's in the current language.
So but your definition, if you're saying it's therapeutic, I can see the CBD oil, herbal extract, etc.
Yes, that language is.
So the bill prohibits the distribution of tobacco and tobacco products. But then you say here, line 590 on page 22. No, ma'am. That it says that is for therapeutic use. I'm just trying to say how does tobacco become therapeutic?
Sure. Okay. So we are replacing line 590 on page 22.
Which is at the top of the page. So it says substitute tobacco.
Yes,
You're removing that.
Yes, ma'am. What we're really doing is removing THC oil because that is a misdemeanor, and we didn't want to have that in here.
And that's fine, but I'm saying what you do.
So that line, the only thing it's really doing is removing. Oh, you're talking about, 590, that's right. Yeah, it's removing THC oil.
But it doesn't say that. Okay. But I'm just saying, when you say that, this is the substitute. But so when you say replace, when you read that and you say replace line 590 on page 22 with the following, substitute tobacco, CBD oil, human extract. So you're saying the only thing that's left then is THC.
Well, what would have been a better explanation, looking at this that you've called?
Yes, sir.
Would have been to say that we were removing THC oil from that definition. So that's another great catch by Representative Hall.
It's just called reading. That's all. If you then go, and so, all right, I think the other one was, okay, at the last line.
The last one?
The last one, 37 through 38, wait a minute.
Replace lines 862?
Right. With the
okay, and that is on page 31. Okay, here we're replacing 862 through 863 with the following subcategory characterized later. So we took out FDA order date and type of order and put in and product SKU number. And that was, I think that's just to help Aaliyah and ABC here, instead of the FDA order date, what we need in type of order, what we needed here at the state level is we needed the SKU number, product SKU number in there. And that came from Aaliyah and ABC.
So just look at this. I'm finished when I do this. 862 and 863 on page 31. You have subcategory. The following subcategory characterizing flavor, And
We kept the first two, subcategory and characterizing flavor, but then we eliminated FDA order date and type of order, and we put in product SKU number. And that's what ABC and ALEA said we needed to do here at the state level. We didn't need the FDA order date.
but you do see how this is confusing when you say you're replacing and then you still end up with subcategory characterizing flavor and product SKU. Does that make, am I making sense to how
Yes, ma'am.
that looks? It still looks as if you're.
We kept the first, in this one, it says replace, and we kept the first two words the same.
You're replacing lines 862 and 863, but then you come back and use subcategory characterizing.
We kept the first two words on that line, even though we replaced it. We kept those first two, but it was the last two we took out and replaced with the SKU number.
So it would have, anyway.
Great catch, as always. So I would move for, well, I guess the sponsor.
It's a friendly amendment, Mr. Speaker. So
Okay, so the sponsor reviews it as a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Move for passage of the amendment.
Okay. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 102 ayes, 0 nays. The floor amendment has been passed. Representative Drummond.
Mr. Speaker, I move passage of the substitute as amended.
We done pass substitute.
Okay.
So it'd be final passage.
Final passage.
That's correct. Question for the body is final passage of HB 65. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 65 has passed as substituted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, body, because we worked with everybody in this State House on this particular piece of legislation. Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Good work. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill number 236 by Representative Rafferty with substitute relating to taxation.
Representative Rafferty, you are recognized.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. So let's see here. HB 236 is a simple bill that removes the state portion of the sales use tax from baby supplies, baby formula, maternity clothing, and menstrual hygiene products. If there's no further questions, I'd like to ask for the BIR, Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would a gentleman yield?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
First, I want to say, Neil, that I'm very proud of you. I'm very excited about this bill. You came to me about 2 to 3 years ago.
That's right.
And you basically motivated me to take this bill up. And I told you, do it yourself.
That's right.
And you took the ball and you kept running with it. And I just want to say that I'm excited about it. My sheroes, the twins, Brooke and Brianna, who was with WIT, who motivated HB 50, which was to pass the feminine hygiene product bills for girls in school.
Right.
And this right here go perfectly along with it.
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
also, before I get off into what I was saying, I left my paper, but I also want to thank all of the representatives in here who co-sponsored on this bill, as well as I was very excited too when Senator Orr brought the bill out in the Senate, and I was so excited I started texting him immediately on this bill, because what this bill would do is going to help so many families
Right.
in this state as far as the spending and be able to afford these products. And then let's not get off into the period poverty, how much that's going to help not only our kids, but our schools, who we do have a budget, Chair Danny, and or that I've asked them to double it, and because it's really not enough. But I appreciate what we do have because it has significantly helped our girls within the schools. And I think this bill right here will even help anymore. So I'm not going to keep going on and on because I am excited about it, but I want to say to you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know Senator Orr is probably listening. I want to tell him thank you as well, and to all of my colleagues in here who have already co-sponsored on this bill, because this is a bill that's much needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Representative.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Let's see, we do have a committee sub.
You care to explain the committee sub for us?
Absolutely. What the committee sub does is it allows local and county governments to opt into this tax exemption if they so choose, which I would highly encourage them to do so, and that's what the committee sub does.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Representative Rafferty.
All right, Mr. Speaker, if there's no further questions, I'd like to ask for final passage.
That is questions. Final passage of HB 236. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 236 has passed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 100 by Senator Chasteen relating to Board of Medical Scholarship Awards Fund.
Chairman Shedd, before you get started, I got a couple of guests I'd like to recognize. First, let me recognize Decatur Morgan County Chamber of Commerce and Decatur Leadership, which has got our own Chairwoman Collins' daughter in it, Tricia Collins. Let's give them a big hand. They're the guests of Terry Collins, Scott Hagan, Parker Moore, and Ernie Yarborough. Also, I'd like to recognize my hometown city council is here, Ricky Byram, Bijan Tahiri, and Derek Rawson. You guys stand up. Thank y'all for being here today. Chairman Shedd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Currently, the Board of Medical Scholarship Awards has its own bank account, and this bill just moves that, establishes a state treasury account and moves everything into that. So if there are no questions, I move BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Chairman Shedd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move final passage.
That is questions. Final passage of SB 100. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. SB 100 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 24 of the calendar, House Bill number 222 with substitute by Representative Underwood relating to sex offenders.
Representative Underwood, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. HB 222 basically closes a loop that you really don't recognize until there's a specific occurrence in your district. And on this one, what the bill does is it on both juvenile and adult sex offenders, it disallows them the opportunity to serve as employed or volunteer positions as a first responder, and it defines those underneath. And that is the basics of HB 222.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for bringing this bill. That has been an issue that we've talked about very recently. As a matter of fact, as of yesterday, with some volunteer fire departments where we have, it's a volunteer organization, but we want to have certain criteria that we can make decisions about who serve, and when people with certain background like that is an issue and concern, in the capacity they serve. So I just thank you for bringing back that, including volunteer fire departments.
I thank you for your support in our conversation as well, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Whew, got you. Shocking.
I'm fired up. Thank you, sir. Let me ask the question. What was this situation?
I'm sorry?
What was the issues, situation regarding you bringing this legislation?
Sure. There's a situation in my district where there's an offender that's volunteering in a fire department.
Are they able to do the job because they had an issue with being an offender, sexual?
Well, physically,
you're going to blackball them from participating in that? Why would you do a thing like that?
Sure. Well, with this bill not being in place, we're giving them the opportunity basically to break the law by the potential of going to certain locations that they are prohibited from being at already within this bill. So it basically takes away their opportunity to go somewhere where they shouldn't be by accordance of abiding by the law as is.
Even if it's saving a life?
Even then.
Well, I'll tell you, you don't believe in second chances, do you?
Well, I do.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to sit down.
It's okay.
Everybody in this room have done something to put us in a position to be ostracized. But we just didn't get caught at it. And then you say you believe in the love of God.
I do.
How can you love and hate at the same time?
No, I'm not hating.
You're defending what you believe, and you're pushing it in front of people to say that they can't have the opportunity to serve. Even though the heart is right in helping someone.
Mm-hmm.
My background shouldn't stop me from being able to love and to help and to save lives. Yeah. I'm just being realistic.
I understand. And I appreciate your spirit, and I know that's who you are, and I have those same spirits about me as well. But there are opportunities that may present themselves that this person shouldn't be around.
Well, you don't let
let's say, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Or I'll wait if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
The example would be, let's say that there are some school children that want to visit a volunteer fire department as a career day to see, well, what do firemen do? Let's go check out the fire department. And they should be able to go to that particular department and know that there's not an opportunity or a threat of someone who has that issue in their life, whether past or still occurring.
Do you believe in overcoming what? I'm not there where I was before. I'm a new me. I
do.
But then you making me live in the past.
On some things we do.
You keeping me in the past.
Yeah.
See, we can't say what's going to happen in a person's heart. We can't see. Right. Only God knows that.
That's true.
And so if these people have made a change in their lives, if they're no longer doing these things, why we can't give them an opportunity to be who they are?
Right.
Human. love, to share, to be productive. I mean, Jesus have done that. We wouldn't, you know, if think about what he did,
right,
and who was doing what they did to him,
right,
and we're still doing it.
Well,
and we're saying that we loving
yeah.
him. I'm through.
Yeah.
Thank you for speaking. I'm done. I'm done.
Thank you, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Morgan, Representative Yarborough. Be the third person to speak on the BR.
Thank you for the recognition. Great bill.
Thank you, brother.
Jesus also, at the beginning and end of his ministry, cast people out with a whip who were doing really bad things.
He did.
And probably if you robbed a bank, it would be really hard to get a job at a bank later on.
I would say.
So, you know, I tell my kids that actions have consequences, and as you get older, that gets magnified. So, having law does not mean that people haven't changed, repented, do better, but it does mean that actions have consequences, right. And that's a very good thing. So thank you for bringing the bill, because I have kids down to 4 years
right.
old, and I'd like to know that the people in some of those positions just really have never done certain things.
Yes, sir.
So thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ernie.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will lock and Shing, and the members will vote. Clerk will lock and Shing, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Representative Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is a substitute for this.
You care to explain your substitute?
Yes, sir. It was implicit in the bill before. In judiciary, we decided to make it specific. And what it does is it does not create, by explicitly in the bill, it does not create any liability for the employer or for any volunteer organization if someone is working in their midst. It's on the responsibility of the person.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the committee sub. Clerk will lock and Shing, and members will vote. Clerk lock machine, record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. The committee sub has been adopted. Representative Underwood.
Move for final passage.
That is question is final passage of HB 222 as amended. Clerk will unlock machine. The members will vote. Clerk lock machine, record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 222 has passed as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 33 of the calendar, House Bill number 275 with substitute by Representative Allman relating to indigent defense.
Glad you could be back with us today, Representative Allman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's about the fastest I've seen you run in heels in a while.
Well, I could go faster than that if I need to.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to move to carry over HB 275. I hope to have a substitute on the floor on Thursday, which is a Senate bill. And so, do I need to make a motion to carry it? Then I make. The sub, a copy of the sub is right up here if you would like to get a copy and read the differences between my bill and that bill. They're very minimal, but a copy of that is here.
You've heard your request to carry it over. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is carried over.
Thank you.
Thank the lady. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore, for a point of personal privilege.
Substitute that is up
Sure,
here.
go ahead, Ms. Moore.
This one is a House substitute here for your 275. The one that you bring in Thursday will be a Senate substitute. Okay. Okay. Okay.
You good, Ms. Moore?
Which is going to be different from this.
Only slightly.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, House Bill number 60 with substitute by Representative Colvin relating to crimes and offenses.
Representative Colvin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, under existing law, the abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation of an elderly person is prohibited. This bill would create the Alabama Adults with Disabilities Protection Act to prohibit certain intentional and reckless abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation to adults with disabilities. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move the BIR.
That's questions passage of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Colvin.
Mr. Speaker, we had a committee sub.
Care to explain your committee sub to us?
Yes, sir. In the original bill, there was language in there about reporting requirements for adults with or elderly adults. In this bill, we did not intend to do anything regarding the original statute, so we stripped that from the bill. And there was also accidentally in the original synopsis requiring a statute of limitations for physical crimes. And after looking at the elder adult statute, there is no current statute of limitations for physical crimes, so we removed that for this bill as well.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Representative Colvin.
Mr. Speaker, with that, I move for final passage of HB 60 as substituted.
That is questions. Final passage of HB 60 as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 60 is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 17 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 47 by Senator Shelnut relating to insurance.
Chairman Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the recognition. Members, I'll be brief with my description because we've passed the companion bill for this one, HB 141. We passed out a few weeks ago, but this bill, under current law, allows the Commissioner of Insurance to approve an assigned risk plan for automobile insurance for those who are unable to procure insurance through ordinary methods. It's like a surplus line for auto insurance. Currently, that policy is with a group called APSO, but it's written on the paper of a third party, which causes confusion. And so this would allow APSO, the group APSO, which is the Automobile Insurance Plan Service Office, to write these policies on their own paper. If there's no questions, I'll call for the BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Ellis.
If there's no further question, I'll call for final passage.
That is questions. Final passage of HB 47. Clerk will unlock machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. SB 47 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 21 of the calendar, House Bill number 265 by Representative Bolton relating to motor vehicles.
Representative Bolton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. This bill, what it does, after about 16 or 18 years, it's updating the child safety seat regulations for the state. Over the years, what's happened is the children are actually getting larger, and we needed to get in line with the NHTSA guidelines that have been updated and published. And we made a few other changes in the law. This is going to be the substitute here, the committee substitute that we're offering. And the substitute was amended to change a couple of things that were in the original bill. Primarily, the big thing that sticks out is when we wrote along the NHTSA guidelines, we additionally put a requirement in that children 12 and under would be in the back seat with a seatbelt on. However, that seemed to be impractical, so that has been changed to a recommendation only. The rest of the bill simply updates the type of seat that needs to be used as according to the weight of the child, and it also upgrades the penalties for failure to comply. I worked with Minority Leader Daniels and his group, Ms. Hall, and Representative England, to make sure that we were all on the same page with upgrading the penalties. And also, Representative Lee had put me in touch with an officer that had a problem. He worked an accident where a child was a fatality that was not in a safety seat. However, his parent had been cited 7 times for failing to put a child in a safety seat. So we felt like this enhanced penalty would help us to control that. And with that, if there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move for the BIR, passage of the BIR.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the bill. The question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. BIR has been adopted. Representative Bolton.
And yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move for final passage of the substitute to HB 265 as passed by committee.
Okay, explain to us what the sub does, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I explained. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. The sub actually modified the original bill to change a couple of the weights on the seats that we were prescribing to be used. And we work with many different organizations in putting these together. We work with Safe Kids Alabama, Children's Hospital, Voices of Alabama's Children, the Alabama chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and also with our law enforcement friends with ALEA and others to make sure that this was both enforceable and that it was to the fitting of the current standards. We did amend we amended, as I said before, the requirement for the children that were 12 and under to be in a seatbelt in the back seat and made it only a recommendation. And that keeps in line with most other states and also with the NHTSA recommendations. And also on line 41, we had amended the weights that the child could get to and the type of seat. We changed it from a rear facing until they get up to a certain weight and 2 years of age or 35 pounds in weight. And in the event that the child is 2 years of age and weighs more, we'll put them in a convertible seat instead of the rear-facing infant seat. And also, we went on with a convertible seat and made it to where the child should be in there until he's 5 years old or 65 pounds in weight, and that's keeping on up with everything else.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Houston, Representative Lee.
I wanted to thank you for adding that with the child seats and the citations, because I had a gentleman, a young officer, to come see me, I guess it's about 3 months ago, and he was really distraught. He had just worked a case where a child had been killed in an accident, and then he went to check-in, and the bad thing was that mother or parent, or I don't know if it was a man, woman, it was a parent, that had been cited 7 times And I think it's important for us, if they're not going to take care of the children, we need to help enforce it to make sure they do. So thank you, that's very important. And I will make sure he will be happy along with all the other officers, because the last thing they want to see is a child killed unnecessarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lee.
Chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren, speaking on the committee sub.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
I just wanted some informational stuff. I need to get some information out of it. Now, what's the law for the back seat and the kids? Is by weight? You say it's not age, it's by weight.
No, it was actually the back seat was actually by age, and depending on the kind of seat that the child is in, when the child is under the age of 6, they've got to be in a particular child seat in the back, which is identified in the law. But a child that's under the age of 12, it's highly recommended that they're in the back seat with a seatbelt. We changed that from a requirement to only a recommendation.
Okay, because I was trying to understand when I heard the 12. Now, I had a grandson that's 6 feet tall.
Yes, ma'am.
and to tell him he couldn't ride in the front seat,
Yeah.
I was a little concerned about that. So I just wanted to get a clarity as to what
Yes, ma'am.
what the stipulations
We
are.
made sure to change that in committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body now is the adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Representative Bolton.
And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to move for final passage of the sub, HB 265.
That is question's final passage as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded vote 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 265 has passed.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 20 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 26 by Senator Weaver relating to the Board of Nursing.
Thank
Your
you
Lady
for the
Collins, you're
recognition,
recognized.
Mr. Speaker. Last year, we passed this bill, and it had one technical error, and it's actually, we called it to become a nurse educator, but the proper term is an advanced practice nurse. And at that, I move for the BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 98 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Chairwoman Collins.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for final passage.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the lovely lady yield?
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of get an idea about this. I'm just not real familiar with the loan repayment process and all of that. Can you just tell me a little bit about the bill? I was trying to read it real quick. I just wanted, I support it. I just wanted to know.
Right. All this one does with this, they were talking about at graduation, you would have a graduate degree and become a nurse educator, and that title is incorrect. So this changes it to the correct title, which is an advanced practice nurse.
Okay, and tell me about the existing law with the Board of Nursing responsible for implementing the Alabama Loan Repayment Program. What is that?
Ask that question one more time.
It talks about under existing law, the Board of Nursing is responsible for implementing the Alabama Loan repayment program for advanced practice nursing.
Right. In order to try to get more nurses in field, they're offering some loans, and then they're in charge of that program.
So what loans is it the entire student loan for the nurses, or
My
is it the
understanding-
loan for getting the advanced degree? Like, what is it for?
And I appreciate that. It is for a, I don't know if it's a graduate level degree, so it would be advanced degree.
So this would be repayment for getting the advanced degree?
Correct.
Not for the undergraduate?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Do we have anything
And this one's
for the-
really just for the title, which is why
The
I
title
was having to
switch.
look at that as well. This is just
Right.
the title.
And I guess I'm concerned about it because I know it's so many first responders worked through COVID. You know, they had so much going on. And I just feel like we haven't done enough for them. And they didn't get incentives. They didn't get to work from home. They had to still show up in some of the roughest situations. And I was just trying to see where or if any of those folks fit within this. And maybe I just need to look at the Alabama loan repayment program more in depth to see.
And there are several, I think we had an earlier bill about medical scholarships. And so we know that that's a high need area.
Right.
And so we are trying to make sure that we're increasing our workforce opportunities in those areas.
Okay. So if I look up the Alabama loan repayment program, will it give me a list of who all qualifies? Or maybe they can text me. I know whoever's out there in listening world, they know I'm
They could
concerned.
probably text you.
Maybe they can
because there's
send me the
gonna be a
information because I do
different
have questions about it.
loan repayment program for every different scholarship.
I got you.
I would say different ones would have different people overseeing it. And so I don't know that you can go to one place and find out about all of them, but probably the Department of Revenue could give you some good direction for the ones you're most interested in.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Final passage, please.
Question for the body is final passage of SB 26. Clerk will unlock machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Record vote 102 ayes, 0 nays. SB 26 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Thank the lady. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 6 of the calendar, House Bill number 219 by Representative Faulkner relating to motor vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. Members, this bill, we have a loophole in our law right now where if you impound a vehicle and because they don't have proof of insurance, but then they can just go get the vehicle without showing proof of insurance. And so this is to close that loophole so that if a vehicle is impounded for not having insurance on it, kind of makes sense that you'd have to show proof of insurance before you get the vehicle out from being impounded. So that's what this seeks to do. Admittedly, I have talked with the towing folks. We have a little work to do on this. I've committed to them that if we pass it out of the House, that I will work on this to make this system, to make that feasible for them to be able to check so that there is proof of insurance. So I will tell you that in advance right now that I will commit to work on that to make sure it's a feasible system for our tow folks that do have these cars impounded. But that's what this bill does. It closes a loophole and says if your car's impounded for lack of insurance, well then you've got to show proof of insurance before you get it unimpounded. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I move to the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Sellers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, Representative.
I understand the concept of this piece of legislation, but I think also to thought, especially in our metropolitan area, which we call Birmingham, we have, I think there's predatory towing that I think probably need to be addressed more so than this kind of identification process. You have
Understand.
more of that happening than this happening.
And when you're talking about, Representative, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
when you're talking about predatory towing, you're talking about when somebody, I've seen this, had it done, where you park in a parking spot.
Yes.
And then the car gets towed by the owner of a private lot. Quickly. And, or you used to have a big old metal thing put on your tire. That now, I sympathize with you, and I can't wait to see your bill. This is for police when law enforcement has impounded a vehicle.
Yes.
Very different from what, but yes, sir. Thank you.
Just wanted to bring that out.
Yes.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I coming in with both hands up because when the police impound your car, they got a contract with that tow truck. And like the brother said earlier, you know, that it's a setup. It costs so much to get your vehicle out from the impound because they have those fees. Now, we don't have that problem in the rural area. Not that problem, but they'll come in and take everything out of your vehicle and then say that somebody broke in. And still you got to have insurance to get it out, which makes sense because you're getting back on the highway, you're going to be operating a vehicle without insurance, and there's a law against that.
Yes, sir. That is perfect. Well said.
I know it well said, but then you got me. You got me. My pocket. You know. You got me way down here because I got to pay so much to get my vehicle out. I can't afford the insurance. I just want to mess with you a little bit. You know, we've had a good day. And it's been and everybody's gone through so much. But this is coming up to the last bill, and everybody got you know, we're a little early for the receptions, I think. So let's talk a while. Why are you bringing this bill?
Really and truly, I was brought to my attention by a state trooper that there's no process when this happens for people. People can just show up and take the vehicle back, and some cities. Officer Hendricks and Officer Treadaway may know in Birmingham have some type of system, but for checking proof of insurance, it was brought to my attention by state troopers, we don't have that.
Now, I got my title, right? Prove that I am the owner of the vehicle, but you won't release me, my vehicle, because I can't show you insurance.
Only if it was, it was impounded for not having insurance.
Oh, well, now, see, you have to make it plain.
That's right.
See, if I'm impounded for not having insurance,
that's right.
The only way I can get it back is to prove that I got insurance.
That's it.
Just as simple as that. That's what I'm trying to get you to say.
That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Hendricks. While he's making his way down here, I'd like to recognize Chief Tuggle's wife, Michelle. She's in the gallery. Let's give her a big hand. She is the chief of the chief's house.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, officer.
I want to say, man, I appreciate this bill. Coming from a law enforcement officer, not only officer, but a sergeant with Birmingham Police Department, we have so many situations to where, shut up. We have so many situations to where a lot of people do not have, vehicle insurance, especially like on wrecks, just particular traffic stops, or just a situation itself. So a lot of times, like you said, they would come on the scene, just say the owner of the vehicle, they'll come on the scene and try to take possession of the vehicle. a lot of these vehicles are illegal. So it gives us another tool to where we can go ahead, apprehend the vehicle, do our initial investigation, and also help it with future cases. So I think it's a great bill. I really appreciate it because it's another tool we can use as law enforcement. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Representative.
And not only that, when a lot of people don't understand, when the vehicles are impound, it's like maybe $50 a day. So it's not really, really expensive. It's just that after a certain date, if you don't pick your vehicle out of a certain date, that's when they take the fees and the fines up. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Representative Hendricks, first time down to Mike. Congratulations. Good job. Well done. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Butler, Representative Sales.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm for your bill. I appreciate it. But I do want you to know that these fees are like $50 a day. So if somebody's having trouble paying for the insurance, well, now the car's been up there for 4 days, that's another $200. So I wish there was a way possible that we didn't have to charge $50 a day when they was trying to come up with the money to come up with insurance. That's probably some people, but it may sit there so long that they might just leave it there and let whoever they got it financed with worry about it. I just want to bring that point. Okay, thank you.
Good point.
That's fourth person to speak on the BR. Question for the body's adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock machines and members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Court votes 95 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Faulkner.
I move for final passage.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marengo, Representative McCampbell.
The red coat is back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking about this bill, and I've got a question that I want you to consider. You just said that if they don't have any insurance, then their vehicle is impounded.
If a police officer has impounded a vehicle for not having insurance, then you would have to show proof of insurance to get your vehicle out from being impounded.
Now, can a vehicle be impounded for not having insurance on a traffic stop?
I'd have to ask Sergeant Hendricks and former Chief Treadaway that question.
It can.
Okay, so it cannot?
No.
Okay.
Now, if there's an accident, then, it can be impounded. If they have no driver's license, it can be impounded. There are certain things that it can be impounded for.
Okay.
When he talks about the other thing we've got to think about is if indeed that vehicle is not owned, he's making payments on that vehicle, then how do the people that actually hold the vehicle, how do they reclaim that vehicle?
Showing proof, if they had proof of ownership?
No, not if they have proof. Well, they are carrying a lien on it. If a bank is carrying a lien on it or somebody of that nature, how do they reclaim that vehicle?
I do not know that process. I only know that they require you to show proof that you're an owner of the vehicle when they're impounded. For whatever the reason is, you have to show that you're the owner to get the car, but there's not this loophole that if it was impounded for lack of insurance, for example, that you have to show that to get the car back. And I'm not.
And all I'm getting you to do is, as you actually start working and talking to the Senate, you need to really think this one all the way through, because this isn't a simple process that you can just say, well, you got to show insurance.
Yes.
This is a lot more complicated than the facial, first look at. So it sounds good, but there's a whole lot more work needs to go on with this one. And I'm not sure we need to be passing it out of here, but you have made a commitment.
I have.
That you will really give it some work.
That's right. I want to make sure it works. I mean, I want to make sure we close this loophole, but it's got to be feasible. We got to make sure it can work. And thinking through that a little bit more is what I committed to these folks.
Okay. Well, that was some of the things that I wanted to make sure was brought to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you now.
Love the coat.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body's final passage of HB 219. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 95 ayes, 1 nay. HB 219 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Clerk, let's call back up HB 275.
On page 33 of the calendar, House Bill number 275 by Representative Allman, relating to indigent defense.
Representative Allman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'm sorry for the confusion today. There's just some confusion with some of the committee subs. So we are now going to present HB 275, which is an amendment to the current laws surrounding our indigent defense program that we have here in the state. It does several sort of minor things, but primarily what this bill does is raise the hourly rate at which attorneys can be compensated for representing defendants who cannot afford to hire their own lawyers. For years, since 2011, the hourly rate has been $70 per hour in court and out of court, including their overhead. And this is an increase primarily in the more serious felonies, capital murder, and Class A felonies, raising the hourly rates there, putting new caps on the amount of money that can be charged. All of this goes through a local committee to determine whether the fees are reasonable. And with that, Mr. Speaker, unless there are any questions, I'll call for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall. Okay, she's going to wait on the sub. Mr. Clerk, let's unlock the machine and vote on the BIR then. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 100 ayes, 1 nay. The BR has passed.
Yes, sir. Now, this is substitute. I moved to adopt the committee sub. Basically, everything, there were just some changes from the Senate to the House, but as presented in committee is what is before you as a sub.
Okay, latest questions, a committee sub. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lauderdale, Representative Pettis.
Got just a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
It says on one case, the maximum they can charge is 2,000 hours. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that is correct.
So that's 40 hours a week for 50 weeks.
Yes, and I believe that was only in a specific type of case, if I could be wrong about that.
It's $110 an hour, or 2,000 hours is $250,000 for one case?
Well, no, there's caps there's caps on each case as well.
But it said 2,000 hours.
I think that's for all the cases.
Yeah, all of them, it says capped at 2,000 hours, or you have to have special permission.
That's right.
But if you work 2,000 hours at $110 an hour, I think that's $250,000 for one case.
So if you look in the bill, they also have caps on each case. First of all, to go beyond that cap, you have to have the permission of the judge to do that. And then ultimately the local committee has to give its approval as well. So sort of 2 layers of approval.
But I'm just saying.
I understand what you're
40
saying.
hours a week for 50 weeks.
It would be an extraordinary circumstance that could go on for years, actually.
Well, that says per year, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Every year it would change. So they could still work 40 hours a week for 50 weeks on one case.
Well, I'm trying to find exactly where that is. Do you know where it is?
I read it last night. I was
Okay.
reading over it. That's where I come up, because one of them is raising to $110 an hour. So if they work $110 an hour, 2,000 hours, that's $250,000. Case, and that's a year. That's
If you'll-
40 hours a week.
If you'll give me 1 second, I'm going to try to look for that
Okay.
and find it so we can be clear. That's all. So that would be not 2,000 per case, but that would be 2,000 per year for all their different cases.
So they could still make $250,000 a year.
Yes,
just
but they
doing
may
it.
have 200 clients.
Okay. But at $110 an hour, that wouldn't work.
Well, they're not going to all be $110 an hour.
That's capital case was 110.
Yes, yes.
I think the lowest one is 85, I
The
think.
lowest one's 55, I think.
That's on the misdemeanors, I think.
Yes,
wasn't it? Yeah.
for which you could have jail time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
That's right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Question for the body now is adoption of the committee sub. Clerk on, Ms. Hall, you want to speak on the sub? Okay. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the lady here.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell me exactly what were the changes from the bill that you introduced to the sub that we have before us?
Yeah, there were no changes to my bill that I introduced. The changes were made from the Senate to the House.
Okay.
And so, therefore, it's called a substitute. But there were no changes made in committee on my bill.
But we're on your bill.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are subbing the Senate bill for your bill. Is that what we're doing?
We're just passing my bill. Originally,
So
previously.
can you tell me what the differences are? What are the differences from the bill that you have now? You said there were some changes in the Senate. What were those differences?
Oh, well, so the reason it's a substitute, and somebody up here can correct me if I'm wrong, there were no changes to my House bill from when I introduced it. But when it came down from the Senate, they had to substitute it. I think Senator Melton added trying to defend doctors and their rate of pay, added a clause in there for doctors. So that was removed. That would be one example. And they also continue to work on the hourly rates of the lawyers that get paid. That was the second thing that got changed from the Senate bill to my House bill. And then ultimately they landed on what you see in front of you. And there were no changes.
Well, what
made
I
from
see
that.
in front of me are two different things. I see House Bill 275, then I see amendment to Senate Bill 83. And you're telling me the Senate Bill 83 is going to be well, so I mean, what I was looking for is the substitute. So am I looking at Senate Bill 83 is a substitute for House Bill 275?
No, ma'am.
So then the information that I have here that says amendment to 83 is what is the substitute?
It does
for
not
your
have
bill?
anything to do with my bill. It was not, did not amend my bill.
So
when I came up earlier, my original plan today was going to be to just pass Senator Smitherman's version on Thursday. And so I carried it over, but for various reasons, we've changed plan and we're just gonna try to adopt HB 275 today, as you see.
So you're saying I just need to get rid of this?
Yes, ma'am.
And look at your bill?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So this is your substitute from the committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I read that. So the changes were, if I'm looking at it correctly, I think I have it. When I go through this, these are the changes that were made, starting on page 1.
No, just 1 minute.
Yeah. This is not a good day for people knowing what we're doing. But anyway, so when I look at your bill and I look at the changes, they're in red, starting on page 1. I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting the same thing that we were talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
And so lines 26 and 27, you have some changes that it's as well as all the way to line 30.
I'm told the only thing that got changed in my bill was on starting at line 234 on page 9. There was originally in there a requirement that the state comptroller had to remit payment in a timely manner. You see,
what page are you on?
Page 9.
Okay.
Line 234.
Okay. That's what you have that was removed.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the only change.
You had one change in your bill.
That's the only change to my bill.
All right, so if that is the only change in your bill, tell me what is this at the back on page 12? Does that page 319? 319 and 320.
Well, it's the same. It's the same notion.
Information referring to the comptroller.
It's the same. It's the same change. Yes, ma'am. To remove the requirement that the comptroller shall remit payment in a timely manner.
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from St. Clair, Chairman Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ms. Almond, you okay to yield it for a minute?
Yes, sir.
All right, look, the Constitution of the United States absolutely requires that we appoint, or that every individual charged with a criminal offense, especially those individuals for which potentially jail sentences can occur, must have a lawyer, period. All right.
Correct.
In this state, we have chosen 3 hire a lawyer, you can hire any lawyer you want, and that's fine. We have public defenders, and you look at large counties like Jefferson. I don't know, do Tuscaloosa, y'all got public defenders?
We do.
All right, so that's another way. That's basically a law firm that is dedicated to criminal defense. In our county, we use contract lawyers, where we employ lawyers to go into certain courts for certain periods of time and to represent individuals charged in those courts, and that's the way that we handle it. However, especially I think in smaller counties or in counties like Jefferson or probably Tuscaloosa, where you run into conflicts. you must make sure that individual has an attorney. Or if it's in a small county where you simply do not have enough lawyers to either fund a public defender program or place them into contract type situations, this is the way we go about doing it. These bills are submitted to the judge. There's an hourly fee. It is set, it is reviewed, it is approved, and then it is paid. The thought process that one lawyer would take one case and work on it 40 hours a week for 52 weeks is ludicrous. So I didn't take much time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Question for the body now is the adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will like to see the members vote. Clerk will like to see and record the vote. 98 ayes, 1 nay. Committee sub has been adopted.
Move for final passage.
That is questions. Final passage as adopted. Clerk will like to see the members vote. Clerk will like to see and record the votes. 97 ayes, 1 nay. HB 275 as amended has passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank the lady. Chair recognizes Leader Stathagen for a minute of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republican caucus members, we are going to have a caucus meeting in room 200 at 4 o'clock. Room 200 at 4 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make a slight change. We will convene Thursday at 10:15 in the morning, not 10:15. With that, I move we stand in adjournment until 10:15 on Thursday.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.